A mother wrote me about her teenage daughter, Maria. She said this, quote, "She's constantly putting herself ahead of her younger sister. Pushy, I want the most, the first. She goes first at any activity. She gets more. She bosses her sister around. Actually kind of older sister stuff. She focuses on her clothing and how it makes her look sexy, tight-fitting, the latest fashions, and on. Fairly typical teenage stuff. That's the problem, is that it's so typical that we accept it as normal." But Mom continues because she's come to some understanding. She said the word for how she's living now is selfish. Yes, even though we've talked about real love in meetings. Now, this is where parents either, one, ignore the problem because they don't know what to do, or two, control it so that it will just go away, which of course it never does. Either way, the child learns nothing about life. And that's the point of loving and teaching, not controlling behavior. It's easy to talk about all the principles of real love, but then we don't follow up and absolutely insist on what? Control? Awareness. If we don't, we lose. They lose. So first, let's keep it simple. The real question, the first question is, does Maria want to be happy? Ask her that, period. That's the first question. If she doesn't, well, then it doesn't matter much what she does it? Because she will find the unhappiness that's the alternative to happiness. You don't have to work to find unhappiness. You just have to not make smart decisions, and unhappiness will come from wherever and swallow you up. If she does want to be happy, and she does, you ask her like straight out and mean it, she does. It turns out that happiness is eternally, universally, and divinely governed by law, just like everything else. The motion of planets, moons, stars, and galaxies is all governed by very clearly defined laws of physics. Good thing, huh? Or the moon could just decide one day to crash into the earth, and that would be the end. Laws govern everything, including, no surprise, happiness. They are not arbitrary. They're not there to restrict our choices. They create a foundation and a path by which we can reliably achieve the foundation we want. Laws protect us. They enable us to avoid the pitfalls that would take away or restrict our ability to find happiness. In laws, we find safety and joy, period. So, what are the laws? Are they complicated? No. As opposed to other laws like being a citizen in the United States or any state. Just the tax laws are in the thousands of pages, and the other laws fill libraries, literally. No, the laws of happiness are very simple. Do you feel loved? Or you have to feel loved since it's a law. You have to tell the truth about yourself. You have to find wise men and women. There's no lying in happiness. Second law, you have to be loving if you want to be happy. Nobody's going to force you to be loving, but if you want to be happy, you have to keep that law. There's no selfishness or anger. You have to actually think about other people occasionally and be willing to give to them of yourself, what you have, whatever. And the third law, if you want to be happy, you have to be responsible, which means no excuses, no blaming. It means doing what is required without being forced and begged, and persist in doing it. Loved, loving, and responsible. Those are the laws of happiness. Done. How lovely and simple this all is. Laws. Who would have thought they were so beautiful? So Mom says, I need to talk to her about her selfishness. She needs to see that her attitude reveals where she really is, because she first tends to think of herself. Yeah, and that is death for a kid or an adult. It doesn't matter what a child can repeat back to you that you've said. What matters is how they think and feel. That's what attitude is. That must change or nothing else will. You can remember the sequence that we talked about in the parenting training. Events lead to judgments, which immediately lead to feelings and then reactions. Attitude reveals both judgment and feeling. And if that doesn't change, the reactions will be selfish. They'll continue to be and emotionally kill her. Mom said, I asked Maria how she was getting along with her sister, Nola. She said that Nola had often expressed her desire to say, do something with her. Little sisters like to play with their older sisters. But Maria was busy and she just hadn't had time. Selfishness is insidious. It's so easy to have an excuse each time. Maria says she doesn't have time because she's fully occupied with what? Looking good, looking for clothes, spending time on Facebook, spending time earning the approval of her friends, and on and on. Mom said, I suggested that she set aside some time and make an attempt to learn to love her sister. She said, okay, but it was obvious that she wasn't enthusiastic. I know none of you parents have ever heard that. Okay. And that is the attitude we were talking about. Her overall attitude can be spoken really very simply. It's me, me, me. It's not something that can be ignored. She can't be happy while she's doing that. Now, she will get away with her selfishness, or it will seem so, in the short run, but she'll pay for it heavily all of her life, in relationships, at work, everywhere. She has the examples of her father, her two brothers, and a sister, all of whom are now stuck in a pit of selfishness right up to their noses, and they can't move. They're going nowhere. All of those people that she knows in her own family with work, relationships, and life, it's a nightmare to watch. And she has seen it. She knows they're unhappy, so she can see where that behavior goes. She needs to see it more clearly. You need to help her see it and see that she's on the same path as they are. Remember how one day, because we talked about this, you talked to her brother, one of those who's up to his nose in selfishness, who was being selfish and arrogant and resistant to everything you tried to teach him. And at one point, you even said this. So what you're saying is, to the brother, that you will be the only person in the world who can keep breaking the laws of happiness, but then you will somehow magically be happy anyway. Is that what you're saying? Do you remember his answer? And Mom said to me, yeah, I do remember his answer. He said, yes, I will be the only one. And that's what selfish people believe. They've seen where selfishness ends up and they go, but somehow, bibbidi bobbidi boo, I'll be happy anyway. Astonishing arrogance and selfishness and denial. Essentially, he pronounced a death sentence on himself. It's that not funny. He refused to abide by the very laws that would guarantee happiness for him. He's so arrogant that he believes that he can create laws for himself that violate universal laws. Mom said, I remember. I could hardly believe it. It was quite memorable. Do you remember Maria's reaction, the daughter you're working with now, to his selfishness? And Mom said, yeah. She said, wow, is he selfish? It's like he's shooting himself in the head, end quote. Yes. And now you need to remind Maria of what her brother said and tell her she's almost to that point herself. She needs to see that she's being as ridiculous, shooting herself in the head just like her brother was. She needs to not just say it, but mean it. That she's expecting to be the sole exception in the universe to the laws of happiness, which don't bend. Mom said, I see it better now. When I bring up her attitude or behavior, she looks like she's being beaten. And she listens only because I'm making her listen. She listens only to get me to stop talking. And if I press her on it, she admits she's doing exactly that. I told her this was a golden opportunity for her. Either she picked up the gold and made use of it, or she would likely miss out on happiness for the rest of her life, because who else is going to teach her? And every day, old patterns of thinking and feeling become more ingrained. Mom said she teared up when I said that, but mostly it was frustration that she couldn't get me to stop pushing her. It wasn't humility. And good for you, Mom, to see the difference between those tears and those of sincerity. Tears by themselves mean nothing. They can mean anything from joy to despair or intense resentment. Mom said, I feel I need to address this head on. Bump her on the head in a way. I'm not making an impression. So maybe ask her directly, do you want to become a selfish person who is only concerned about how she looks and having fun and using other people? Do you want to end up like your siblings and your dad? Yes, I agree. And add this, something like this. Say, do you want to become like all the other empty, selfish people in the world? Do you really think you won't become like your brother and older sister and everybody else? The people who whine and complain and demand all day, the people you have said you found flabbergasting and even disgusting. If you keep this up, you will become like them, and you will hate the end result, and you'll be surprised. And that would be very sad. Look at all the selfish people and how they end up. All of them. They do get away with it for a while. They do have fun, or appear to, and then they lose. Your life is at stake. Tell her that. No exaggeration. Mom said, maybe I need to ask her each time she's selfish if she's choosing happy or unhappy. Yes, right now is the time to help her not choose badly, as did her brother, sister, and father, who are very unlikely to change. I would even suggest 2 new choices in addition to happy versus unhappy. And this should help all parents. Every day we choose between comfort or growth. We choose between feel better or be better. Explain that to her. These are possibly more tangible choices, more graspable, a more practical guide to decide in the moment which step to take next, more real than happy or unhappy, which is harder to assess. Happy, unhappy is too big, too broad, too distorted by the world, because the world defines happy as entertained or satisfied, which is wrong. We must choose a willingness to be uncomfortable if we want to grow and stretch. We must stay away from feel better, which is just sedation, it's numbing, and choose be better. The first thing I will do today, Mom says, is, for example, to collect their phones when we're together, not just put them down. I'm doing half measures. Then I'll go to an inexpensive store and have Maria find appropriate shorts and tops that aren't intended to display her flesh to everybody, and I will put away her expensive, tight-fitting clothes. Well, that's gutty and outstanding. Mom says, I have to grow up and be a big girl. Yes, you do. I'm starting to get the vision of it, that I'm bigger than I realized, that my position is more important. I contain happiness and confidence, and gravity permeates all of my large self. I must communicate the love of God to my children, which would mean I would have to have enough of it myself. And then Mom wrote me again and said, I met with Maria and told her how she is being entitled and spoiled, like most of her generation, rich and poor kids. She said how the world is just spinning with getting things. Cars, phones, free college, and on and on. She says, parents, this is the daughter, pay kids to motivate them to even participate in classes and activities. Yeah, it's horrifying. And Mom says, we talked about how her brother is being supported by the state because of all of his selfish decisions, and her other brother is well on his way into the same system. Kids are dying. And I say this to everybody. And we're helping them to do it. We're enabling them. But you, Mom, are changing the world. So congratulations on being a parent. We can all learn to do that.